Welcome to video 2 of lesson 17. Boys and girls, in this page, on SAB page 252, we're going to decide if the answers are reasonable. Say reasonable with me. Reasonable. Remember, reasonable just means does it make sense? Does it make sense? Is my answer reasonable? You should always be checking your work to make sure your answers are reasonable. Okay, boys and girls, before you blurt out an answer, think about it. Just take a minute to slow your brain down and think about, you know what, does that answer look right? Does it even make sense? Is it reasonable? Then you can move on. The same with your SAB pages. Check over your answers to make sure they're reasonable. Now, let's look at the directions. It says, which my directions are right here and you're following along with me, use rounding to decide if the answer is reasonable. Write yes or no. Then find the answer to see if you were correct. So it says to use rounding, okay? There's two parts to this. Use rounding to see if it's reasonable, write yes or no, and then find the answer to see if you are correct. So let's read it twice. It is a story problem, and then underline important information. Nathan counted 28 large dogs and 37 small dogs at the dog park. He said he saw 55 dogs in all. You ready? So Nathan counted how many? 28 large dogs and 37 small dogs at the dog park. He said he saw 55 dogs in all. Okay, so he's saying he saw 55 dogs in all. That means that he added them together, right? Those are our clue words. How many? He saw 55 dogs in all. All right? Well, let's just make sure that check and see if that's reasonable. It says to use rounding, right? Well, I'm going to write out 28 and I'm going to write out 37. I know he added that, right? So let's go. Oops, you know what, boys and girls? I'm going to erase that. Sorry about that. Let's do it this way. 28 and 37. Let's do it that way. Oh, sorry. Those are my two numbers. Well, I'm going to round. And you can even have done this in your head, but I want you to write it down. So I'm going to underline my tens place. I'm going to circle my ones place, okay? Now I'm going to look at what's circled. Remember rounding? Does my 8 tell me to round up or stay the same? If it's 5 or higher, I round up. If it's below 5, I stay the same. Well, it's above. The 8 is above 5, so I'm going to round up. So my 2 is going to change to a 3. And remember, I just add a 0. Okay, so 28, if I round, is closer to 30. Let's do the 3. Again, or 37. So I underline my tens place, circle my ones place. Does my 7 tell me to round up, or does it tell me to stay the same? Well, 7 is higher than 5, so I round up. So my 3 is going to change to a 4. Very good. And then I just put my 0 because rounding means that I have a 0 at the end, right? So now I have 30 and 40. So in my head, I can just check to see if 55 is reasonable or not, right? So let's go ahead and just add that in our head. 30 plus 40. I can even say 3 plus 4 and then add my 0 after it. So what is 3 plus 4? Well, 3 plus 4 is, that's right, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I just add my 0 at the end. Do you see how I did that? I did that in my head because they both end in 0. So, 30 plus 40 is 70. Well, Nathan said he had 55, or he saw 55 dogs in all. Does that seem reasonable, boys and girls? Not to me. I'm going to say no, that does not seem reasonable because 55 isn't close to 70. So now, let's go ahead and do the addition problem, just to make sure, because that's what it says to do. It says, then find the answer to see if you are correct. So 28 plus 37, where do we start? Ones place. 8 plus 7 is, that's right, 15. Put my 5 down, carry the 1. 2 plus 1 plus 3 equals, that's right, 6. So he was not right, was he? So I'm going to put no, comma, and then I'm going to put my answer, which was 65. That wasn't reasonable because 55 was way far from 70, wasn't it? And really my answer is 65. So his answer was not reasonable. See how I did that? I had to put yes or no, and I did that, and then I had to put the real answer, which was 65. And to see all this work we did over here, boys and girls, I want you to do that with the rest of it because I want you to show your work first so that we have it in our head first, okay, and get used to it. Do that with the rest of the problems. You know what, at this time, if you understand how to do the rest of the problems, you do not have to continue watching the video. I'm going to do number 7 with the boys and girls that need to continue watching and to have another example. Otherwise, if you get it, go ahead and stop the video and just do the rest of the page. All right, so let's read the problem. There are 122 third and fourth grade students at Cedar Creek Elementary School. There are 67 students in third grade and 55 students in fourth grade. Now let's go ahead and underline important information. There are 122 third and fourth grade students at Cedar Creek Elementary School. There are 67 students in third grade and 55 students in fourth grade. So we need to decide if that answer is reasonable. So we need to just see if that information is reasonable or not, okay? So we know that there are 122 third and fourth grade students. So remember, over off to the side, I'm going to do mine on the bottom, okay? I'm going to rewrite those numbers, 67 and, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to rewrite those numbers. I'm going to write 122. And I'm going to rewrite 67, okay? Now, let's just make sure, and really you could do this a couple different ways, but the way I look at this problem is that I see that they're talking about there are 122 third and fourth grade students at Cedar Creek Elementary, so they know that there's 122 students, and there are 67 students in third grade, and they had to figure out if there were 55 students in fourth grade. So it's going to be a subtraction. So we know that there were 122 third and fourth grade students, and they knew that there were 67 third grade students, and they need to figure out if there were 55 in fourth grade or not. Okay, so we're going to check and see if this is reasonable, if there really would be 55 students in fourth grade. So we write 122 and 67 down. So what we need to do is round our numbers up. Okay, so you can go ahead and put, let's do the tens place here. Underline my tens place. Let's do the circle the ones place. So does that 2 tell me to round up or stay the same? Well, it's below 5, so it tells me to stay the same, right? So my 1's going to stay the same and my 2's going to stay the same, and I'm going to put my 0 at the end. Then I have 67. Underline the tens place, circle the ones. Does that tell me, that 7 tell me to round up or stay the same? Well, it's 7, so it's above 5, so that tells me to round up. So my 6 is going to change to 7, and then I just add my 0. Well, that's a subtraction problem. We know in total, there are 122 third and fourth grade students, and we know that 67 of them were third grade students, so that means we're going to have to subtract to find out how many fourth grade students. So we're going to round to see if that, and then we're going to subtract to see if it is reasonable. So notice I put my subtraction sign in the middle from 120 minus 7. And really, remember, there's zeros at the end, so I could do mental math. 12, I'm going to take away my zeros and make it 12 take away 7. Well, what is 12 take away 7? Let's count out from 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that's 5. I'm using my fingers, okay? So let's start at 7 and see how much it takes to count up to 12. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 take away 7 is 5, and then I have to add my 0 back. So 120 take away 70 is 50, and they said there would be 55 fourth grade students. Well, 50 is close to 55, so is their answer reasonable? Yes, it is reasonable. It is reasonable because 55 is very close to 50. So I'm going to say yes. Now let's see if we are correct. Okay, so now we're going to take the real number, 122, take away 67, and let's go ahead and find the real number. Where do I start? Ones place. Can I have 2 take away 7? Nope. I had to go to my neighbor. Excuse me, Mr. Neighbor. The 2 is going to let me borrow 1, so it changes to a 1. Put a 1 in front of that 1's place of the 2, so now it's no longer a 2, it's a 12. 12 take away 7 is what? Remember, start at 7, see how much it takes to get up to 12. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's 5. And then can I have 1 take away? You can either look at this as the next number as 1 take away 6 and have to borrow, or you can already look at it as 11 take away 6. We'll do the first way. So can I have 1 take away 6? No, I can't. So I have to borrow from my neighbor. Excuse me, Mr. Neighbor. That changes to a 0, and now we have a 1 in front of my 1. 11 take away 6 is, let's start at 6 and see how much it takes to count up to 11. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 5. So look, 55 students. They were reasonable, weren't they? Ta-da! So boys and girls, I know it's a little confusing, but we're just trying to round numbers to check and make sure their answers are reasonable, as well as checking to make sure our answers are reasonable. It's just a good way to practice. So go ahead and try the rest of those problems on your own, and then check with your teacher when you're done. Good luck.